everybody. Welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Rothfeld, and the data just keeps getting better and better. I guess it depends on how you're looking at it. Now, right now, all expectations are that the Fed is going to cut rates 25 basis points on September 17th at their meeting. But we do have a couple weeks before then, and there might be some data that could change that perspective. Of course, last week we had the unemployment rate, which came in line with expectations, an increase of 0.1%, up from 4.2 to 4.3. So not terrible news, but remember, the higher that unemployment rate goes, the more likely the Fed will cut rates to juice the economy. Is there anything this week that might derail that optimism that so many people have about this markets? I think there is, but it's not the earnings calendar, which I'm showing you right now. Let's start things off with our earnings calendar. Only 259 companies reporting this week. Nothing on Monday to speak of. On Tuesday, though, we get a couple big names. Oracle, Synopsys, and of course the meme stock, GameStop, which has now become a Bitcoin treasury. You have the EV darling from China, BYD Motors, which is BYDDY. And on Thursday, you have Adobe and Kroger. And that is pretty much it for your earnings week. Now let's shift our focus to inflation. As we've talked about so many times in this program, the core PCE price index is one of the most widely watched measures that the Fed is using to gauge inflation. Jerome Powell has been pretty stubborn, saying, I want to be data dependent, and citing the tariffs as being a major issue for maintaining rates right where they're at. I, for one, am on Powell's side. I do believe we should keep rates right where they're at, but I don't make the policy. Now, we had a number come out last month that was a Macaulay Culkin moment, Home Alone, where you just grab your cheeks and go, ah! And that was the producer price index number. So let's take a peek at the PPI numbers that's coming out this week. It is huge, as Trump would say. This is huge, huge. Nobody knows PPI like I do. This is big stuff. Why is it so big? Because if you look at the right-hand side of that chart, do you see that ominous, gigantic bar that goes up to 0.9? If you notice, we haven't been anywhere near that since early 2022. What does that mean? Well, either that's a one-off, erroneous data point, or we have some serious issues ahead of us with regards to inflation. Because remember, producer price index is what it costs for producers to make a basket of goods and services. If we get a number on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time that's anywhere close to 0.9, I'm pretty sure that Jerome Powell will not be lowering rates because this is just too dangerous. Now, expectations are right now it's going to come out at 0.3, which would bring us back to those peaks in there that we saw back in early 2025, so that would be okay. Then we have the CPI numbers coming out on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can see right here, right now it's at 0.2%. The expectations are we're going to jump up to 0.3%. But what might be more telling here is when you look at the annual consumer price index, year over year change. And you can see right now it's been sloping up the past 3 months. Well, you got higher and higher and higher. Not a dramatic ascent, but certainly increasing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the tariffs. Right now we're at 2.7. Expectations are we're going to come out at 2.9. Put a little red arrow on there for you because that's the old number there was 2.9 as well. Not a great number. So inflation will be the topic du jour for the week. This could derail the prospects of Jerome Powell cutting rates 25 basis points if these numbers of CPI and PPI are elevated. Remember, it's the core PCE price index number that they're looking for, the Fed is looking for, but that doesn't come out till after the FOMC meeting on the 17th. So we have one more piece of data. Of course, if you're trading the euro, you might want to pay attention to this one. We are going to be talking about the ECB. They are coming out with a rate announcement, and right now the expectation is that they are going to stay right where they are at 2.15%, no major change there. And of course, it really depends what they say at their press conference afterwards. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about tariffs and other global issues. That, my friends, is pretty much it for the week. So that is your Monday Morning Must Knows. Be careful. We'll see a ton of activity later on in the week with the CPI and PPI numbers. And of course, if you're trading the euro, careful with that one as well. We'll see you next week.